Don't matter if the wolves start calling. Don't matter how much I'm falling, yeah. Get down, get down. But I keep on climbing up. Hi everyone, I'm April, and you're watching the Tangled Cat Speaks. It is mid-May 2021, and times are just a-flying by. Wow. Yeah, it's crazy. It's already been about a month since I last podcast. So I want to welcome you here. And I just want to say thank you for returning if you're a returning subscriber. And if you are new, thank you for being here your very first time. And I hope I don't scare you away. I just want to say real quick, this is primarily a knitting, crocheting, yarny goodness kind of podcast. I don't think I have any crochet to show you this time, but mostly knitting. I sometimes talk about books that I'm reading or have read throughout the month, and TV shows and or movies, stuff like that. Sometimes I talk a little bit about life stuff, but not a whole lot, so don't freak out. So I'm prepared now-ish. I don't normally take notes. And even if I did, I don't always follow them because I'm scatterbrained. So this thing that I accidentally flashed to you is the first knitted finished object that I'm going to tell you about. And this is a scarf, cowl, whatever you want to call it. It's a long tube knitted in the round this way, so back and or around like this at the short side, and it's just a long tube knitted to however long you want it, and then you Kitchener or graft the ends, the two open ends of the tube together, and it makes a double thickness fabric. My goodness, my cats are distracting me. They're over there pacing back and forth as if I owe them something, staring at me. So the ends are grafted together and you get this double thickness fabric, and it's wild like this because it's called the Fiddly Bits cowl. I think it's called a cowl on the pattern. It's Fiddly Bits, and what it is you just use a bunch of leftovers and make a very scrappy looking scarf or cowl. And I had made a magic ball, so I had tied all my ends together, all the little ends together. I tied them with a magic knot, so there's tons of little knots, but you don't even have to tuck them in because they're all inside the tube. So super easy. And I was very, very upset with myself, and I did a little bit of swearing because I meant to knit this, or not knit, I meant to graft these ends so that it lays flat like this all the way around, but as you can see, there's a twist right there. I swear I did double, triple, quadruple checking to make sure that it was laying flat when I get Kitchenered it, and sure enough, I still messed it up. I very much contemplated, and it'll move wherever I want it to. See? So now I guess it's more like a Mobius, but it's not what I was going for. And I did contemplate taking out that Kitchener, but this is a lot of stitches. It's over, I think, 100 stitches, and I can't remember if this was on a size 2 or 3 needle. I don't want to go back and take out the grafting and then redo it. You have to put all the stitches back on the needles, blah, blah, blah. I didn't feel like doing that. So I just left it, but every time I look at it, I'm like, I swear I checked it. It's okay. It's all right because I can always stick that part in back. It is nowhere near time to feed you. Go away. Oh my God. they see me in the kitchen and they think they get to eat. And then you're going to twist it anyway. So you're not even going to see where it was that I made the mistake. So I just let it go, let it go. It's so funny that I sing that sometimes because I've never seen Frozen. Ever. Never have seen that movie. Anyway. This is the Fiddly Bits cowl, and I love it. It's got it's kind of like you know, the memory blanket. You look at all of these different colors that you've used over the years, and it's just like, oh, I remember that, and oh, I remember that. There's actually a few in here that I think were inherited, gifted to me, and I don't have any clue about them. Some of them I just look at and I'm like, I don't ever recall using that yarn. But it's fun, and I just kind of let it do what it was going to do. And there are some parts where, like, okay, for instance, this bright blue doesn't even make it all the way around. You can see here, it starts there and it ends over here. It doesn't even make it all the way around the tube. I saved every little tiny bit. I was going to use everything that I paid for. So some of them are super short. Some of them are quite a bit longer, which is, this one's really long. But I like that. It makes it very scrappy looking, and that's exactly what I was going for. And it's just super warm. Not that it matters now because New Mexico has hit the high temperatures. So let's go on to another finished object. And I can't remember. I think I might have showed you all this last time. Or did I start the knit along after I podcast? I can't remember. I don't know. Anyway, Helen and Mary Beth did a knit along. Helen and Mary Beth from Toad Hollow Yarns. They are the Crafty Toads on YouTube. They also have a Facebook page, Crafting with the Toads, and they were going to do a knit along for the Boho Blush by Andrea Mowry, and I chose to use 2 yarns that I had from them. It called for 3 skeins. I didn't have 3 skeins of the same color, so you can see on the bottom I kind of had to fade in a 3rd color. But this is what it looks like. And I even got to do a couple of Zoom meetings, like group Zoom meetings with them. It was so fun, but they totally called me out because I was sitting there finishing up the last of these rows, and oh my gosh, there's over 500 stitches there at the end, and it was just taking me forever. However, when they called me out, I was pretty much one of the first ones in the group who was done. There was a lot of people by that point, because this was like, I would say 2 weeks into the knit along, 2-3 weeks, and one person in the Zoom meeting had already completely finished hers. She was wearing it, and I was like I was in the last section trying to finish that up during the Zoom meeting, and everybody else was like section 5, section 6. There's 11 sections, so I was definitely, but the whole time I was knitting, and I don't recall actually doing it, but apparently I was like, the rows are so long, the rows are so long. Being completely obnoxious, like that like the little octopus from Finding Nemo. I'm obnoxious. I didn't realize that I was being that obnoxious, and they didn't call me obnoxious, and they were just joking, but they totally called me out. We're over here struggling, and there's April. Oh, these rows are so long, and she's almost done. I'm sorry for being obnoxious, everyone that was on those Zoom meetings. I didn't mean to be, but I get very excited at the very beginning of a project, and I go super, super fast, and then when I get to the end, I'm like, oh no, I don't want to do it anymore. I just want it to be done. Not that I don't like it anymore. It's just I want to be done. But this is it. These are Sock Toad from the Toad Hollow yarns. This first color that I had 2 skeins of was their colorway called Becky. And then this bottom one is called She Sailed Across the Ocean. And I love this so, so much. And it's huge, huge. But I did kind of aggressively block this. I stretched it out as far as I could without losing the integrity of the brioche. So anyway, this is my second finished object, and it's so huge. I can wear it over my shoulders, or I can wrap it around my neck like this and get all bundled up. I love it. Very bright, very cheery, and it's just this sea foamy. Oh, there went my glasses. No. Oh, I saved them. Sea foamy, tealy, bluey kind of greens are my favorite. So I love it so, so much. So that was the Boho Blush by Andrea Mowry. And then sticking with the Toad Hollow theme, I guess. I was on a Toad Hollow binge, apparently. I talked about it last time, that I just needed to finish up the sleeves. I finished the Spring Connection jacket from Drops. You want to talk about me cussing. I was very much channeling Samuel L. Jackson with the mother effers. I was just, I was so, so, so upset because I had gotten the sleeves done because they're knit bottom up, and then you ease them and set them in, which is something I'd never done before. And I said I was very, very worried about doing it. I've never done it. I was kind of scared. I don't know if you remember several episodes back when several months ago, I want to say, maybe at the end of 2020 or the beginning of this year, I was still working on it, and I was talking about how big the armholes seemed, and I even like put it over my head. It was just so huge, and I laughed, and I thought, I'm going to trust the pattern. Well, the sleeve did not match the armhole, and I rechecked and double checked several times throughout working the pattern. Everything was exact. My gauge, the sizes, the lengths, everything, stitch counts, everything was exactly as it should be. But the sleeve, after I did the cap, the decreases for the cap, none of it fit. It was no way that was going to ever fit into that armhole. It would have been awful. There was just no way. And I gave up. I went ahead and I got the armhole, and I picked up stitches all the way around. This is the armhole. This is the sleeve. This is part of the armhole. And I just went around and picked up stitches, did some decreasing, and then grafted the part that I pulled out the cap of the part that I had knit bottom up or cuff up, and pulled it all the way back to where the decreases for the cap had started, pulled all that out, and then grafted those together. So this is where they would have been grafted together. Totally fudged it. I didn't know how to do the decreases, like the rate, but I needed it to match up with the other one because I didn't want to do the whole sleeve. I was just winging it 100%, and it still came out kind of jacked up. But I don't care. I kind of understand a little more about decreasing for sleeves now. So sometime in the future, I think I may take this out and redo it and just do it all the way, decreasing all the way down. But for right now, I'm okay with it. Another mistake, and this was my mistake, that happened with this, is I have a very bad habit of slipping stitches at the beginning of every row. And I did that with the sleeves. And I think that this is why when I did the mattress stitch to seam it up, it left these weird little gaps. Or maybe it's just because I decreased it weird. I don't know. I'm still very new to mattress stitch also. But my mattress stitching here came out lovely. Like on the shoulder. Let's see, here's the back of the neck. See, and those came out nice. Just under the arm, and I'm pretty sure because I did something weird there. but it looks so awful. I got this weird little thing happening. Let me see if I could hold it up this way. So yeah, you can see how quickly I decreased from here up to where the brown is, and it's just very rapid, so it left it bunchy. But again, at this point, I just wanted it done. I was angry that the pattern had misled me so much as far as the sleeves went, and I won't be doing another drops patterns. Let me say that. But like I said, I think I understand now how I can pick up these stitches a little more uniformly and not have this weird little bunching underneath the arm. But right now it is underneath the arm. You can't really see it, so I don't care. I'm gonna leave it. I may leave it forever, who knows? But if I ever decide that I wanna fix it, I think I have a good enough idea of how to decrease it better. And I would be doing it in the brown, so there wouldn't be any seaming. Yeah, so I love it though. I love it. I'm gonna put, there they go again. Just leave them off. Just leave them off. It's so big. Let me see. Let's see if I could just throw this on. It is so comfortable and so warm and snuggly, and it's just the best for around the house. At least that's what my intention was with all of these. I think it ended up being 13 colors because I had to add another color here. This is Haunted Hayride. If you happen to follow me on Instagram, which on Instagram I am, I'll put it up here, I am the Tangled Cat. Or no, that's my Ravelry. I am the Tangled Cat is on Ravelry. The Tangled Cat is Instagram. But let's just stand up here and move my chair. Can you see? Can you see? I love it so much. Oh, I love it. The collar is a little bit high, so it's folded down because it goes all up. And then it's got all these colors. I love it so much, and it's just, it makes me super, super happy. I'm not gonna leave it on though because it's crazy hot. And because I'm in New Mexico, we use, a lot of the houses use evaporative cooling, or what we call swamp coolers. And so when it gets really, really hot, they don't always work as well as you'd like, just because the water evaporates really quickly and doesn't cool down inside the house. Anyway, I'm not an HVAC person. Anyway, so I'm not gonna leave that on because it's very hot, but I love it. I wore it several times because it got really, really cold at the end of April, beginning of May-ish, and then it got hot again. But I love it. It's definitely gonna be one of those things that I'm gonna be wearing it a lot in cooler weather. And I don't think I'm gonna stick to just the house. If I wanna go somewhere, I'll probably wear that because I am so, so, so in love with how funky it is with all of the colors. I love it. I mixed solids with speckles, with cool tones, warm tones, lights, darks. I just mixed everything because I was in a mood and that's what I came up with. I love it. I'm very, very pleased. Like I say, I may go back and fix those sleeves, but who knows? We'll see. It's wearable, it's functional, and I still am super, super happy. Speaking of being in a mood, a little bit of life information. I, for the past year and a half, have been dealing with intermittent, every few months or so, abdominal pain. And the first couple of times I thought it was a stomach bug. They were so far in between and I didn't think about it. But I started getting them more, these little bouts of pain, and nausea and vomiting and all of the ugly stuff more frequently, and I started to think this can't be a bug. Finally, after a little over a year, I decided to go to the doctor. I'm just stubborn. I should have gone sooner, but I didn't. And it turns out that I'm having some gallbladder issues, and I'm gonna have to have that removed in about a month or so. It's fine. It's gonna be good. Everything's gonna get worked out. I'm very confident of that. But in the meantime, I still get these bouts of gallbladder attacks. Very painful. And the other day, and when I say the other day, I want to say maybe 3 weeks ago, I wasn't feeling good. I was having an attack. And I had said I wasn't going to buy yarn in 2020. But I was like, you know what? I'm hurting and I need to feel better. If I can't feel better in my stomach, I might as well feel better in my yarn stash. So I was watching Marina Skua. I've talked about her before. I test knit her Boscular sweater, which I love, but it's too hot to wear. She also dyes yarn. She doesn't just design patterns. She dyes yarn. She's in Bath, England, I believe. And she had come up with it. She had shown this color that she had just finished dyeing on one of her Instagram stories. And I don't normally go for reds and oranges as much as other colors. But she showed one and I just love it. I fell in love with it. And it's this one. Now this is her Mendip 4-ply. And it's like a red, it's like a red orange. Like if you were looking at Crayola crayons, I haven't looked at crayons in decades, but there was always one called red orange. This is what that reminds me of. I fell in love, so I ordered 2. But then I thought, well, before I checked out, I'm like, well, what am I going to actually make with it? Let's have a plan for once, April. Let's have a plan. So I went and looked at different patterns that I thought that I'd like to make. And I found a couple potential, I'm not sure, I haven't really settled on yet, but I looked at different patterns and yardage and blah, blah, blah. And I decided this is going to be, because I was looking at all her other colors, and I decided this was going to be part of a fade. So let's see, this one was called Ore. This is Ore on her Sunny base. And she's got 2 4-ply bases, I believe. At least 2 that I was looking at. She's got the Mendip 4-ply in Sunny and then Stormy. And I think the difference is the Sunny is more like a natural cream base, cream colored base, and the other is a natural grayish base. So she has 2 versions of every color. So this one is the Sunny in Ore. She's also got Ore in the Stormy, and it's a little bit darker, gloomier. Anyway, so this is on the Sunny base. Then the next one that I decided to grab as part of a fade is this one doesn't say which base it's on. I'm thinking it's Sunny because it's kind of bright, but this is the Arable, but it was a limited edition, and it's got some reds and definitely more orangey color here. So if we hold these 2 together, you can see the difference. And then the next one that I chose on the screen, I wasn't sure how this one was going to work, but I thought I'd grab it anyway. And this is also on the Sunny base. This is Rose. Now on the screen here, it looks more like my top, but it's not quite this bubblegummy. It's a little more orangey, but it is definitely different than the others. But my lighting and I think the wall behind me is making it look, that might be a little better of a representation because it looks very bright here. And then I decided to go the other end of the fade. And I grabbed also, this is another of her limited editions in the 4-ply, and this is called Gather. And you can see this is like a brownie orange, rusty color with a little bits of reds and darker browns here. So that's gonna go on that. And then the last one I picked was Beach. Now this one is on the Storm base, so it's a little bit darker. So this is gonna be a fade of some sort, and it's obviously not gonna be a very gradual fade. It's gonna be an obvious color jumps, but I'm excited and I'm super happy. And all my emotions were satisfied when the mail came in yesterday. So thank you, Marina, for helping me with my emotional state. So that is really the only yarn that I've got coming in on any acquisitions. I haven't really been, like I say, I haven't been spending a whole lot of money on stuff because I've got tons and tons and tons and tons of stash. Ridiculous amounts. When the guys came to set up the air conditioner, the swamp cooler, you know, they had to go through this back room. It used to be part of the backyard, but whoever lived here, whoever owned the house before made the part of the backyard into like a sunroom. And that room is where I have all my yarn set up. And he had to go through there to get to the backyard. And he looked and he was like, what do you do with all that? And I'm like, I make stuff, but not fast enough to get rid of it. So yeah, it's a lot, but that's okay. I'm happy and whatevs. So speaking of stash, I did decide to delve into some old stash, and it's also not just stash, it's yarn that I dyed. And I decided I was going to work with it. And I'm going to have to throw up some pictures here. I just lost my train of thought. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put up some pictures here of what the yarns look like in skein form, because it was one of those things that I just needed to start knitting, and I'm almost done. And I do have pictures of what they look like after I dyed them in 2018, I believe. These were yarns that I had gotten from, what is it called? Gnome Acres. Gnome Acres had gone out of business several years ago, unfortunately, and they were doing a big sale on all their bare yarn, and I went and bought tons of it. A bunch of fingering, some worsted, and I think I want to say there was an alpaca blend in there, but I bought a bunch of it. And what I'm working with now is 4 skeins of worsted that I dyed in 2 different colorways. I originally meant to make 2 separate items with these, but I saw them sitting together next to each other and I thought, oh, they're going to be one thing. So I started a shawl. I'm not using a pattern for this. This is just something that I am winging. I've made enough triangular shawls to know how they're constructed. And so this is how it's knitting up. I am loving it. It's just, like I say, a regular triangular shawl, which you've got the increases here at the spine. And I have a cable running down that spine. I've got this panel of stockinette, and in between color changes, I've got eyelets, and this color I'm using garter. So I'm just doing those kind of alternating those sections. And I had 2 skeins, like I said, of each color. And what I did was I did a third of the first skein for this section, a third of the first skein for this color, 2/3 of the last 2/3 of that first skein, the last 2/3 of this skein. This is the full second skein. I've only got this much left of it. So I did a third, 2/3, and then a full skein. And then the last section is going to be garter in this green, the full, let's see, right, this is the full skein caked up. So that's all going to be garter on the bottom. I'm not going to do a fancy border or anything, just garter. So that's how I split it up. And oh, I love the colors. Ooh, it matches my wall. But these are yarns that I dyed using food coloring. I think this was the Wilton. Yes, this was the Wilton's food coloring gel. I remember because this was, I used a ton of blue. And then there's two sort of different colors going on here of orange and then like a brownish color. So this was orange and this was copper. And then this was the royal blue, I think it was called. This one, I think I was trying to exhaust a dye bath. I had used, for something else, I think I used Easter egg pellets, Easter egg dyeing pellets for something else, and I had a whole bunch of, I didn't keep the yarn in the other yarn in the bath, in the dye bath, to soak up every bit. There was still some left in the water, and it was just kind of like a last minute, I grabbed 2 skeins and threw it in there, just let it soak up however, and it turned to this weird funky green. It was a bunch of different, you got yellows and greens, and I think there was maybe a little bit of blue in there, but they all kind of mixed and formed this strange green. And I just literally threw these 2 skeins in there in the dye bath dry. I didn't pre-soak them, and it just kind of, you can see it dyed some places darker, some places lighter, just very, very random. But it was an idea I got from, I think I mentioned a long time ago, I used to watch Rebecca from Chemnitz. She still got her YouTube channel. I kind of stopped dyeing yarn and I haven't watched her in a while, but I love her. She's so good at experimenting with dyeing yarn with different mediums. But she did a thing that was, she called it a yarn mop, so that she could, there were times where she didn't want to fully exhaust a dye bath for whatever reason, and she would have leftover color in the dye bath, and she would grab a random skein and just throw it in to soak up whatever color was left, and then leave it to the side, and then use the water again. And then again, if she had more color, she would sometimes throw it back in, and she would get these random mix of colors that she was quote unquote mopping up with her mop skein. And so that's kind of where I got that idea. I just had color that I had the color that I wanted on the other yarns, and I wanted to pull it out of the water, but there was still dye left and I didn't want to waste it, so I threw in skein and got this very celery looking color of green, and I love it. So I'm almost done. I'll probably have this done in a couple of days, and I love it so much. Very, very exciting. These are some very cheap wooden needles that I got off of Amazon. And I'm using a US 10. I didn't realize that. I thought I was using an 8. This whole time I thought I was using an 8. Why did I think that? Oh well, it's working out. I'm super excited. So that's that whip. And I've got another whip here. I mean, whips that I'm showing you. I have so many whips, Now, again, if you followed me on Instagram, you would have seen that I said I was going to start some socks with cables and beads. It was the Paths of the Dead socks by Claire Ellen. She has a lot of Lord of the Rings themed sock patterns. And I have tons of them in a notebook in my yarn room. And I thought, oh, I'm going to use this bright ass pink. And then I thought, well, that's a lot of pink. So I said, I'm going to use this leftover skein for the cuffs, heels, and toes. And I thought, oh, that's going to be cool. What color beads am I going to use? And I found these. I don't have them here, and I could put a picture of the beginning of the sock because I did start them. There's some bright cobalt blue beads. And I was like, that's going to be so funky, but I'm going to love it. And then I decided that the cabling later on, it was really hard to see the cabling because this is kind of blinding. It is so bright. And even though the cables are very well defined, the color was definitely distracting from how pretty those cables are. So I think I'm going to make those socks. I pulled it all out, and I'm going to make those socks again in a much softer toned down color. But I already had it kicked up, so I might as well use it, right? So I went onto Ravelry and looked up different patterns just to, use up some leftovers. I found some other leftovers that I wanted to blend in to make something. And I found a pattern called Lopsided. It's a shawl that has garter on one side and like a mesh pattern on the other side. It's like an asymmetrical crescent shape. And it's by, I don't know how to pronounce the name, Siu Clark. I'll put the name up here. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I'm sorry if I messed it up. But I decided I'm going to make a fade. So I went and I started it. It called for an 8. And because I thought this was my 8, which now I find out it's a 10. Anyway, I decided to go down to a 7, which is fine because I know that I'm using a lot more yarn than what the pattern calls for. It's one of those patterns that you can just kind of keep going and end it when you feel like it. So I thought it was going to be okay using a 7. So I started with this gray, and you can see, is that the front side? Yeah, that's my marker telling me it's the front side. And you can see I've got partly garter and this really pretty mesh on the other side. Oh, it's looking so good. So I started with this gray, which is Gray Pearl from Pandia's Jewels on her snug base. And then I don't know the name of this other yarn. I'm sure I could find out, but it's one I got off of Etsy. I'll put the name up here, but I don't remember it offhand. I got this off of Etsy to make a scarf for my son's girlfriend, now fiance. Oh my gosh, my baby, my youngest is engaged. It's so weird. Time flies way too fast. So this is the next color that I'm fading in. I believe the color is called Dreamcatcher. So it's grays, but it's got a lot of pinks, soft pinks, and teal, very soft turquoisey color. And I'm not like fading when you alternate rows for a little while of the different colors. I just basically jumped in and switched colors. I'm okay with that. Very, very soft change there. Then the next one, I think, let's see. So the gray, I only had 15 grams. This I've got 30. And then I've got about 6 grams of this other color, which is another Pandia's Jewels on her snug base. This is called Event Horizon. This is all I have left of this color, and it's so pretty. And then let's see, the next color is going to be this one that I showed you. Pandy is Jewels again, and this is called American Graffiti. Super fun. And then that's gonna go into, I'm gonna stop this part here. So all those colors are going to be striped, basically like color blocked in this section. The next section is going to be garter. And in the pattern, I think it's only for a couple of rows and then you bind off, but you can continue to make it as big as you want. And I'm going to do the garter in this. And I'm going to use all of it. But I think I'm also going to intersperse every few rows. I'm going to put in eyelets, just so I don't get bored. And I'm going to use as much of this as I can. I'm just going to try to use all of this as much as I can. Getting rid of all my scrappies. And then I wanted to use this. I wanted to use a different color for the bind off. Maybe like the last set of eyelets, a row, 2 rows of garter, and then the bind off if I have enough. If not, I might just simply do the bind off. But I'm going to use this color because, wow. So this is just going to be very, very, because I don't have a lot of it. This is all I got along the bottom edge. I don't know the name of this yarn. A while back, Toad Hollow, Mary Beth and Helen from Toad Hollow, were doing a giveaway. And I won the giveaway. I think they had something like 18 or 12 skeins, mini skeins from random designers. These were not dyed. It wasn't dyed by Toad Hollow. They had random skeins from other dyers and they were giving them away. And I won 6 of them, and this is one. And most of them had little labels attached. This one probably did too, but it may have fallen off at some point. So I don't know the name, but it's so pretty. It's very Easter. But it's just gonna be along the bottom, you're barely gonna see it on the bottom edge. So it's gonna be a wild and funky shawl, but I'm more happy with these colors in this pattern as opposed to the socks. I think those socks are gonna look better in a softer colored yarn. Maybe not gray or brown or anything like that, but definitely not bubblegum. So that is all that I am talking about as far as yarn and knitting today. Like I said, I've got tons and tons of other whips in progress and plans and ideas and dreams, but I'm not going to talk about all that today. I'll just talk about it as it goes. Oh, I guess I could give you an update on, I'm one of those people that says, oh, I'm leaving, bye, I'll see you next time, and then I keep talking for another 30 minutes. I promise it won't be that long, but I'll give you an update real quick. I am currently up to date on my anniversary. It's called Anniversary Temperature Shawl. That's what the pattern is called, but I'm not using it for anniversary purposes. This is just my version, my version of that pattern. And I'm loving it. So far, I'm using a lot of this color the past few days. I think this is going to be used quite a bit. But I am up to date, and I even went back and did this entire section of tucking in ends. I still got a little bit here that I need to do. I'm carrying the colors up along inside. You can see it's not very pretty. Don't care. It's on the back side. But I'm proud of myself. I've been keeping up on it, and I even got around to tucking in a few ends. But I'm carrying up the colors along the side as much as possible. So it's definitely a lot less ends than it could have been if I was clipping every single day. Oh my goodness, that would give me an aneurysm. So that's all my knitting. Let's see, I do have my book here. I don't necessarily have notes, but I do have my book that I keep all my stuff in. Let me just kind of show you. This is my crafting page, and you can see these are all, this section here is all things that I started in 2020. I haven't listed anything that I started before 2020, but I've got these here, and you can see there's a few that I have finished this year. These are all things that I've started since January. These little blue dots here are things that I didn't have a pattern for, and I came up with it on my own. Let's see, so that was my crafting, but the reason why I got this book out is because books. I did read quite a few books, or finished quite a few books this past month. I listened to audiobooks versions of some books by Cleo Quayle for the Haunted Bookshop mysteries. There was The Ghost and Mrs. McClure, The Ghost and the Dead Deb, and The Ghost and the Dead Man's Library. And then I also finished The Ghost and the Femme Fatale, and The Ghost of the Haunted Mansion. I am on the 6th one, called The Ghost and the Bogus Bestseller. And I think that leaves me I think there's one more after that, and then I'll be up to date. But I'm a little bit bugged because they're cute books. They're cozy mysteries, amateur sleuthing kind of thing. You know how much I love that. And it involves a bookstore owner who realizes that the bookstore is being haunted by, train of thought again, by a private detective who lived in the 40s? I think so. 30s or 40s, something like that. Back when those film noir detective movies and books were a thing. And so he's from that era. She's obviously in the present, and only she can hear him. He can manifest himself to her, but he doesn't do it often because it makes him tired. And he's basically helping her sleuth these little mysteries that she gets herself involved in. It's really cute. Now, the books are narrated, the audiobooks are narrated by two people. You've got the main voice, which is the main character, the girl. And she voices also, when it's her point of view, she voices all the characters, including the detective. But when it's from his point of view, they have a second reader, and it's a male voice, very gruff, and definitely sounds like he belongs in film noir type movies. And it's fun, and I love it, and I've gotten used to it. And like I say, I'm almost done with the 6th book. The 7th book on Audible, and it's read by somebody completely different, and there's only one reader. It's a completely different person, and I don't even know if I want to continue with the series listening to it, because it's a completely different voice. That bugs me. That irritates me so much. So I have come to recognize those two voices as the characters. I don't want to do it. I don't want to listen to somebody else portray these characters, and it's just very upsetting to me. Back ages and ages and ages ago, when I started audiobooks, I used to go to the library and get CD audiobooks. And my favorite that I would get would be MC Beaton, and it was the Agatha Raisin series, and I adored the woman who voiced that. I used to know her name off the top of my head, but I can't think of it right now. Couple dozen books, all voiced by the same woman. And then the next one was somebody completely different. Oh, I was so mad. I couldn't even focus on the story because it was a completely different voice. I was so upset. I powered through because I really, 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 really loved the Agatha Raisin series. They're so hilarious. I powered through, but after that, after a while, I just switched to reading them as opposed to listening because I couldn't get it. Donata Peterson? I think it's Peters. Donata Peters was the one who originally voiced the Agatha Raisin series by MC Beaton, and I loved her. I loved her so much. Not to say that the other one was bad, it was just different, and I was just not having it. So that's how I feel about this. I haven't listened to the sample that Audible has. I think Audible allows you to listen to a short snippet. So I haven't listened to it to see if I'm going to enjoy it. But I've gotten so used to this reader that I'm like, maybe I'll just read that book as an actual book. Who knows? I don't know. I haven't made that decision yet. But anyways, let's get off of that. That's what I listened to. I did, what is it called? The Merlin Arthurian Saga by Mary Stewart. I am now on the third book, and I'm way behind on my self-imposed schedule. The Last Enchantment. Look at that cover. Very cool. So this is the third book. I'm almost done. It's about 450 pages-ish. I'm about halfway. But because I wasn't feeling good, I mentioned earlier, I wasn't feeling good for almost 3 weeks. And I couldn't sit and read. I just was not feeling good. I was just in pain. So reading was just kind of put to the wayside. I would read maybe a page and then put it down and just not. I didn't do a lot of reading because of that. I watched a few shows on TV. Let's see. I watched The Nevers and Mayor of Easttown, both on HBO Max. Really liking those. The Nevers. I'm just having so much fun with that one. And Mayor of Easttown is more of the murder mystery detective kind of things that I love. So I'm really loving that. And it's got Kate Winslet as the main character, and I adore her, and I love it. So I'm really enjoying those two. Please don't hate me. But I watched The Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney Plus, and I was kind of meh about it. I was like, it's all right. I still haven't watched WandaVision. My sons have yelled at me and said, watch it. It's definitely better than Falcon and Winter Soldier. I don't know what it is that... Actually, I do know what it is. I adored all the Avenger movies, everything. The Thor, Iron Man, I adored them. They were just so wow. But with Falcon and Winter Soldier, please don't hate me for this. Please don't come at me. They're the side characters. And I know that the other characters had to move on. They had to phase them out. They couldn't go on forever. I get that. I get it. But they were never my favorites, and the side story becoming the main story just fell flat for me. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing Robert Downey Jr. I don't know. I don't know. Same thing with WandaVision. I don't want to watch it for the same reason, because Scarlet Witch was a side character and I wasn't fully invested in loving her as a character. So I don't know, because the one fell flat. I'm afraid to watch the other one, but my kids are insisting that it's worth it. So I may watch that. I don't know. And then I also watched, is it Kong and Godzilla or Godzilla versus Kong? I can't remember right now. But I watched that and I really enjoyed it. I remember the old Godzillas back in the 70s. They're probably older than that, but I watched them in the 70s with my mom. Every Sunday they would come on. And my mom, it was either that or Sinbad the Sailor. We would always watch those, me and my mom together. And so I have loved Godzilla for the longest time. And I've loved the first two movies. I loved King of Monsters. Oh, even though all of the other monsters, except for Mothra, were bad guys, I loved them. So cool to seeing them up on the screen. But where I was going with this is that I loved the new movie as well, but more so for the fight scenes, for all of the scenes that involved monster battles. The human element of it, the storyline that they put in there, I honestly don't care about. I just want to see the monsters battle. So I had fun with that. I didn't really care so much for Mortal Kombat. I remember the old movie, how corny and cheesy and silly it was. But that was the 80s. Everything was like that. If it wasn't epic, it was corny and cheesy. And that's, I think that's what they were going for with Mortal Kombat, the new one. But it just, the fight scenes were awesome. The storyline was kind of meh. I don't know. I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it like I was hoping I would. So that's what I've been watching. There's not a whole lot else going on right now. Yeah, that's it. So I guess I will go ahead and leave it here. I'm sorry, this is longer than I meant it to be, but I've been rambling. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm starting to feel like I'm starting to feel awkward because I feel like I've been talking too long. So I'm gonna cut it off here. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad that you chose to spend some of your day with me. And if you've made it all the way to the end, I so much appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Bye.